So I want to welcome everyone to the joint meeting for the Rules and Open Government Committee and Committee of the Whole. Tony, can we have a roll call, please?
Arenas? Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Here.
Perales?
Here.
Jones?
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. So we are going to take the public records appeal item first. And Nora, I know that you are going to speak to this first. So I'm going to hand it off to you.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want to remind the council and what the issue is before you today, because this has gone on over a number of sessions. Under the California Public Records Act, California Government Code Section 6254F, body-worn camera footage is a record of investigation that's exempt from disclosure and cannot be released to the public unless requested by the victim of a crime or the exemption is waived. The police department's investigation was unable to determine a crime had occurred, and therefore there is not a victim withstanding on under the Public Records Act to request the body-worn camera footage. The Rules Committee today is being asked to make a decision about whether to deny the appeal or to grant the appeal and release the body-worn camera footage. That release, if the committee decides to release the footage, the entire public would be entitled to request and view that footage. In other words, the Rules Committee would be waiving the exemption by releasing that footage as a public record. So that's where things stand today. And I think Lee has more information with respect to what the police department and city staff have looked at.
Yeah, thank you, Nora. Lee Wilcox, Assistant City Manager. Thanks for opening that up, Nora. I know you covered a few things I was going to mention. Also wanted to thank Amanda for chatting with me last week and helping talk through some of these things. Since the onset of this coming to the Rules Committee, San Jose Police Department has worked to try and find a qualified exemption so that we can substantiate a crime to release this video to the requester. As always, the burden of search for and to obtain evidence of a crime does fall on law enforcement. PD has tried several times or attempted to prove the elements of a crime of a violation of a domestic violence restraining order. They've continued to consult with the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office and have heard that the current evidence at hand, which is a statement, a credit card statement, I believe, is not enough to file or prove criminal elements as required. So as such, with no qualifying evidence and our attempts as a police department to obtain information from a gun shop directly in Oregon have been unsuccessful. We cannot meet the legal standard to establish a crime or to prove that a crime had occurred at this point. With that said, it is not uncommon for law enforcement to coordinate with a member of the public, including any possible victim, to assist with their respective investigations. So San Jose Police Department and the City Manager's Office have made the request of the requester to help build the case closer to what the District Attorney's Office would like to see to help prove that a crime was committed. So having a physical receipt or physical proof that a gun was purchased does put San Jose Police Department closer to establishing elements of a crime. We've made that request of the requester. So we can move forward with additional information if and when we are able to obtain that information, but at this point, we do not meet the legal threshold to move forward, as Nora has said. So with that, I know that Nora and I Deputy Chief Washburn and Lieutenant Donahue are here for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Lee. I'm going to now go to the public for public comments. Paul, go ahead.
Thank you for that. Also, to from Horseshoe, respectfully, there is a public interest here because when an officer is wearing a body-worn camera, that's the eyes of the public. That's why we got it there. The only reason why they have it there is those eyes that are looking at the scene are the public's. So the department doesn't really have authority over that, nor does the law, because we've already established that that is required on their uniform to record all interactions. So there is a public interest here. Number two, Councilwoman Arenas, when we were at that piss meeting where the police department called the cops on me when I was a victim, we established at that point, and you can reference for this conversation, Licardo's input. And what Licardo said is that we must at this time accept what the person states is true. Okay, so that you charge it as a crime right there on the scene, let the district attorney determine that. That is not up to the officer at that time. If the person is saying that they committed a crime with the Me Too movement, the premise for the Me Too movement was that believe everything that she says, absolutely everything. So that means that the officer at that point it's incumbent upon him to charge it. Let the district attorney determine that, not him. But because there's an interest, I want to know who that dude is. This dude is somebody. He is a somebody because you guys are protecting him. I have at least 5 of these domestic violence non-contact orders. So I know what's in them and I know what's produced in court. So if anybody wants some information about that, I'm an expert on what can be done and what can't be done with those kinds of orders. I'm not ashamed of it because I paid for everything that I've ever done. But what I'm saying is that there's a public interest here, and I demand that it be turned over because the police department turned me in when I reported that I was a sexual assault victim. Okay, and I would like Catherine on the record today. No, she's not going to be protected. She needs to be here. I need to hear exactly what she has.
Brian?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm just trying to understand, and I know you can't really answer, maybe you can. If I write a report or I call the police or something, and I say somebody threw something at my car or something like that, and there was no evidence, then me just saying that on the police report isn't a crime, right? I mean, I'm saying there's a crime, but there has to be certain elements within the whatever crime I'm saying happened or whatever crime. Those have to be threshold to a certain level before body camera can be released, unless there is a release by the agency. I get confused because a lot like the Greg Floyd, obviously that was a crime right on, that body cam was released pretty quickly. So I think that's where part of the confusion comes from. And basically that's where I'm confused at. I just want to make sure that this lady is protected. That's the primary thing, right? That should be the number one thing. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Happy Wednesday. Happy meeting to everyone. Public meeting. Nora said at the beginning of this item that there's a certain degree that a discretion can be used in decision making. Thank you for her saying that. Those weren't her exact words, but hopefully that can be respected as needed. Thank you that Lee said you are trying to build a case towards he did purchase a gun, so things are going in a good direction. I hope there's a sense of healing to all of these questions, and that the couple can really learn to heal themselves as we're trying to ask these questions. I know that the plaintiff really wants this for her own admission, and she should. Isn't there something like client-lawyer privilege that kind of circumvents and doesn't have to work directly with, then it becomes full public availability? There should be a certain client privilege that, police are in attendance within the same meeting and they can view the film, the body cam footage together. And that way it doesn't have to become public footage, and that offers a bit of what Nora said at the beginning as options to do at this time, I think. It may not be a crime, but is this male person a threat? I mean, that's another consideration, and why I also mentioned healing. Does this, is he a threat? And if he's not, if the police are going to take a subtle approach to this, be sure to be talking about healing practices and that ways to get together on this. And it's a lot for the woman to balance. And I really commend her efforts and keep up the good work in how to simply ask to see footage. It's appropriate, it seems, as appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy?
Thank you. My name is Cindy Hunter, and I'm with Next Door Solutions to Domestic Violence. I just want to make sure that Amanda Gould will be able to read a statement from Catherine. After the public comment, we respectfully request that she's able to read the statement that she had prepared. And also, Blair just mentioned allowing Catherine to watch the footage. That was another recommendation that Next Door Solutions had put forward, was not handing the footage over to Catherine per se, but just allowing her to view it with her support people in the room was one alternative that we hope might still be considered. And then finally, Amanda has brought this up previously, just that we believe that Ms. Wayland is a victim of a crime, regardless of any charges being filed or anyone being arrested. And that's definitely outlined in the government code, section 13951 B1. So it's still not clear to us, or to me especially, I'll just speak on my own behalf, the city's requirement, we believe said, or I believe said, that a victim of a crime could have access to the footage of a body-worn camera, and this detail of whether or not someone's arrested or charged, it's not clear why that's part of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Esther?
Good afternoon, council members. Esther Perales Diekman, Executive Director of Next Door Solutions to Domestic Violence. I'm sure you're well aware that myself, my team, our board of directors are committed to ending violence in our community in the moment and for all time. We're here today hopeful that Catherine will be able to have her requests met. We reached out to Chief Mata and to Robert Lang, Lieutenant Robert Lang, and asked, she simply wants to see the footage with you so that you can see for yourself what went on, and she wants to share how it affected her. This would go a long way in helping the department figure out what do we as leadership support in terms of the culture of how our officers are behaving out on these calls for service. It's not an unreasonable request. It's extremely untrauma informed what we have put this poor woman through, what we have also expended in terms of our staff time to make sure we stand with her, that she gets what's rightfully coming to her. So at a time where we're celebrating, the historic gun safety ordinance that passed last night, at a time where the city's examining, reimagining public safety, you have an opportunity to do the right thing. So we are hopeful. We're depending on your leadership and your courage. And regardless of the outcome, we will be here to continue to stand with survivors and work with the city of San Jose to make sure we address domestic violence and keep our families safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, so you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a couple questions of my own, but I did want to start with reading a statement written by Catherine Reichenbach that she's asked that I read on her behalf. So I'm going to start by reading that. It feels like the bar has consistently been changed and the wording manipulated to protect large entities and deny the right of the individual. I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I got a restraining order because I deeply feared for my safety and the lives of myself and my children. I made this police report because a DVRO violation had taken place that made me fear for my safety and was dismissed by an aggressive and disrespectful officer. This officer then even came back to my house unannounced at night, a month after I made the complaint against him, causing me additional fear. A knock on my door at night by an unknown person when my husband has been buying and assembling guns understandably caused me to be even more afraid. This whole time, I just wanted accountability and an acknowledgement of the horrible way I was treated by this officer and a commitment to change for future survivors seeking safety. Instead, I've had my privacy violated. I've had to relive a traumatic event multiple times. I've had lies and misinformation told about me in this public forum. This result doesn't reflect what is morally right, but despite the outcome, I hope that this appeal remains in our thoughts and hearts, and we can reflect on what we say we value as a society and what we practice. If anything is highlighted in this appeal, I hope that it is the failure at every step that further victimizes the already beaten down and vulnerable. Words often given as solace are the least you have in your life, but what life is it when you have no rights and your victimhood can be publicly debated, and your privacy is not respected because in order to get any assistance, you have to relive your trauma and pray that the person listening to you believes you and has the authority to even help you. Every opportunity for help and support is needed for a victim of domestic violence to find the strength and determination to face the isolating and victim shaming cultures that are weaved into our laws, family courts, police responses, and even our communities. Had these appeals not taken place, San Jose would not have known about the failures of the CLET system and would not even be aware of this type of police response for survivors that is not isolated, just underreported. Without this appeal, police would have been able to cross out the DVRO violation written on the incident reports and hand over the unregulated code for speaking to a civilian and not a survivor begging for the restraining orders given to her to be used to protect her and her children's safety. Regardless, I am grateful for the support of Nextdoor, who has appealed for me in many circumstances in order to access records that I was told didn't exist, like my first report, and for them being the first place to actually listen to me and my words and give me the voice and credibility I didn't have on my own. I've never been silent. I've just been silenced and failed many times over, despite doing my best on my own to do what I believe is right. I'm also very grateful for those equally as outraged at how this appeal played out in the public setting and for those representatives that believed me and that I had rights that were not considered or protected in this forum. I understand humanity and error. I understand mistakes can happen at any level, but when it's often and everywhere, it isn't much of a mistake as much as it is a pattern. And when an error on paper or in the field is made, that employee can go home to live their lives, while that missed opportunity may be life or death for the person begging to be heard and supported. I've heard multiple parties pledge to do better by survivors going forward, from improving CLETs to improving this process of requesting body camera footage, to improving police responses to survivors of domestic violence seeking safety. If I can't get this footage that is rightfully mine, I hope that at least those pledges are more than words and that everyone here considers the ways that they can act to ensure a safer and better future for survivors. As Coral Anika Thiel said, a victim's first scream is for help, a victim's second scream is for justice. And I hope that cry is finally heard and we challenge ourselves to do what's right and not just what's convenient. Let change begin with us here in San Jose, and let us not pretend what is broken is already fixed. We don't need perfection to respond better, and even the small steps taken create bigger and better changes for our futures and our children's.
Thank you, Amanda. You said you also had some questions.
Yes, I had two questions. My first is, there were 3 reports of the same incident. There was the initial report that was not taken when Catherine called the police. There was the follow-up report I had made with her in the office the next day, and there was the officer showing unannounced at her door. I want clarification on what documentation has, like which report has documentation be obtained from for the receipts for the gun purchases. I just want to make sure that all the evidence has actually been received. There's also been the correspondence with the Central Point Police Department on their investigation as well. My second question is,
Amanda, let's give the Lieutenant Donahue or
sure.
one of the other officers a chance to answer each question one at a time. So, Lieutenant Donahue, you want to address that first question?
Yes, sir. I'll take a look. And Lieutenant Lang or Chief Washburn, you might have better info if I mess this up. But I believe the first case number that when the officer came to your house the first time, that was an event number and didn't have a report attached. So I'll give you that number. Is that what you're asking for, the case number?
No, I just want to make sure that all the evidence has been examined from all, the multiple ways in which this has been reported and investigated.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll do the case numbers if you want that later. Lieutenant Lang or Chief Washburn will be better for that question.
Chief?
Rob, can you jump in there and try to answer this question? I mean, my understanding is when the detective sergeant in family violence reviewed the case, they reviewed all reports submitted associated to the original complaint and incident number, despite the fact that a report was not written the first time. Can you just please verify?
Yes, Chief, that's 100% correct. So the first incident when a report was not written, that information, and then when the report was written, was all combined into the first report. So the second contact, all of that was written together. The third one that she's mentioning was the event that occurred later. That's not the event that we're talking about today. That would be involving the body worn camera that we're discussing.
Great. Thank you. Amanda, you had additional questions?
Yeah, I'm wondering, and I did reach out to Deputy Chief Washburn as well as Leonora to address this, but the Central Point Police Department did obtain evidence of the purchases, and I wanted to make sure that was followed up on. And I did also want to ask if there is an option for this footage to be released publicly instead of just to the client. And if so, if that is an option, can she be given time to think about the ramifications that might have for her?
Yeah, I'll let the city manager's office answer that second question, Amanda, but Lieutenant Lang, are you privy to any information related to Central Point, Oregon, sharing back physical evidence related to our specific case? And I know that there is a separate case that Central Point, Oregon is investigating regarding items that were found up at the property. Again, that case is completely bifurcated from our investigation. But do you have any knowledge or information about Central Point, Oregon having physical evidence to our original case? That's not my understanding, at least at present.
Again, you're correct. So the initial report that we're discussing here, where they want to obtain the body worn camera footage, that incident, the evidence that we have are the credit card receipts, et cetera, that were turned over to us. That's what we're investigating. If Central Point does have anything that's related to a new event different from what we're looking for the body worn camera, and that investigation is being held up there by them. To my knowledge, they don't have any of our evidence from us. We have turned over the information that was given to us by the requester in this incident. We've given everything that we have to them, and the investigation is being conducted up there by them because that's where the event took place.
Nora, did you want to jump in on the legality of the second part of that question? I'm happy to follow up on it, but I think the question that Amanda had asked was, is there an option for a public release of the video? And my understanding is yes, there always has been. That would be the Rules Committee approving the appeal. But then that would be open to the public, and Catherine originally was hesitant to do that, which is why we were going down this track. But can you confirm that?
Yes, that's correctly. And that would result from the committee deciding today to grant the appeal and release the video. And should that occur, it would have to be a public release at this point. There was a question about whether or not it could just be viewed by her. And we've considered that. I thought that might be a possibility at one point also. I think I discussed that with Amanda, but we've confirmed that under the Public Records Act, just like we don't slide documents across a table for someone to see if they've made a Public Records Act, but in an effort to not have the document be public, if you will, that doesn't work. If we allow a release to someone in the public, then it's a release to everyone in the public. So.
Thank you for that clarification. I know Catherine would definitely need some time to consider if this is her only option and she can't be given it privately, whether or not she would be willing to go that route, since it does put her privacy at great risk. Nora, I do have a follow-up question, which to circle back to what Cindy brought up in the public comment, Cindy Hunter from Nextdoor, is does Catherine have the legal protection of a victim and therefore be entitled to that body camera footage, even though there is no charge or sentencing, because our California law states that a victim is still a victim regardless of whether the crime is charged. And this protection's there because as you know, it is so rare for gender-based violence crimes to actually go with any sort of sentencing or charge.
Yes, and thank you for that question. The Public Records Act is very clear in its phrasing, and the bias is for records of a public agency to be completely public. And so the exemptions are narrowly construed, and it does say what it says in terms of a victim of a crime. And so that's what we have to deal with. And this is obviously a most unusual circumstance. We've struggled with how to deal with it. But we have to, as a city and a public entity, we have to deal with the Public Records Act as it is.
Thank you for answering that. I also know Dan Mayfield, Catherine's attorney, is here, and I saw his hand was raised, so I did want to flag that.
It was raised, and okay, now it's back. Dan? Go ahead.
He's muted.
Dan, you're on mute.
Pardon me, my fault. What I just heard was the police department telling us that there are 3 case numbers. I'm aware of those 3 case numbers. And that although a report was not written in regards to the first case number, which I believe violates protocol from the San Jose Police Department, that the second case number, or the second incident number, incorporates the first and second encounters. That being the case, that we would very much like to see the written report from the second encounter, because it will incorporate the 2. So while we believe obviously that the body cam footage is relevant, that the body cam footage should be turned over, we should be able to see it. Without a doubt, we should be able to have access to that written report, which is related to the second case number and incorporates the first time that an officer came to the house and the return to the San Jose Police Department, I believe is probably the second case number. And without a doubt, that written report should be turned over to us. And I think that then gives everyone an opportunity to go forward with the question here about whether the body cam footage then is relevant. Looking at that report will tell us at least some little bit about exactly what happened in that first encounter. The first encounter that does not result in a written report, in my opinion, in violation of protocols of the San Jose Police Department. So I would make a request for that second encounter, for the written report on that second encounter at this point, and I'm happy to do that formally. But it would seem to me that that answers a lot of our questions that people are raising about the body cam footage, and allows us to move forward with this issue and come to a real decision.
Thank you, Dan. Nora or Chief Washburn, I don't know who would be best to address that question.
Yeah, I would defer to Lieutenant Donahue as research and development professional staff do the records requests. And I don't know whether or not the requester has received a copy of that report, but I will defer to him at least as far as acquiring a copy of that report.
Thank you very much, Chief. Steve Donahue, Research and Development, Mr. Mayfield. So a Public Records Act request, as you may or may not know, it can be made in any way, and we'll take what you just did as a Public Records Act request for a copy of that police report. Unfortunately, the police report's going to fall under the very same rules of government code in 6254F that govern the body-worn camera that we're discussing today. So it will fall under the same thing. However, with a police report, we're able to provide a synopsis of it to the public. So theoretically, making this request, you would be provided a synopsis of the event that is composed by our records division, but not the actual report unless that report is made public or you're party to that event, which is the whole reason we're here today. So after this, somehow you and I should connect, and I'll get your information for the Public Records Act request just to make it official and get all the information in the system just to record it. And then the committee can make that decision on whether or not to release that police report at the same time they make the decision for the body-worn camera.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Mr. Mayfield, do you have any other questions?
Well, let me, just a comment, not a question, that I think where the disconnect here comes is that we are defining Catherine R. as a victim. And everyone seems to be deferring to the police department in making that decision, and that their decision is coming down and saying she's not a victim. Yet we know that we have an order from Superior Court in Santa Clara County that says she's a victim. We know that the Central Point Police say that she's a victim. We know that she says that she's a victim. Yet everyone is deferring to the San Jose Police and their determination that she's not a victim. And then that, of course, relates to what gets released or not released in relationship to a Public Records Act request. I think that that's where there's the giant disconnect in this case. That victims are defined not just in the Public Records Act, but they are defined in the California Constitution, and victims' rights are defined in the California Constitution. That was part of Proposition 9 that established those things. So where I think we need to go with this discussion is, point one, do we consider Catherine R. a victim? If she's a victim, then she has definitely additional rights as opposed to anyone who's just walking down the street and who files a Public Records Act. Maybe they find one of those little orange cards and say, oh, gee, I'll just fill out a Public Records Act and ask and find out what this is. That's really different from a person who is a victim of a crime, who's been recognized by a Superior Court judge as a victim, who's been recognized by another police department as a victim. So yes, we will proceed in this matter. And yes, I do want a copy of that police report, but I don't want a synopsis of it. I want the police report. I'm not trying to be harsh, but I think that's exactly where we are here. But I've spoken too long. We should proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayfield. So first of all, I want to say, and it's been recognized, and Amanda, on behalf of Catherine, spoke to this, that the process is not geared for this type of appeal. And there's been a commitment from the city to evaluate the process and figure out a better way to handle these types of appeals. So that's been recognized. There also has been a commitment from the police that they will evaluate the process and come back with recommendations if there needs to be changes. So that's also been publicly recognized as a potential path forward. As far as the actual appeal is concerned, I know that Amanda stated that Catherine would consider, or at least, think about the possibility of being allowed to view the video, even if it became public. And Amanda, maybe you can help us with this. I know there was also a concern about the fact that this has been going on and dragging out and being in the public for numerous meetings. And so is there an appetite to even extend this a couple of weeks? Or would it be better just to come to a resolution today? So I just want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I understand that, since this has been dragged out for a very long time. I would still like Catherine, and Catherine has requested to have a couple weeks to think about it. This has large impact on her life. We were hoping that the committee would decide to give her the footage privately, and unfortunately it looks like that's not happening today. So yes, I would like us to have a couple weeks to think on whether she would like that footage to go to the public or not.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, may I make a suggestion?
Sure.
The council or the committee can make a decision today, and should the requester, Catherine, decide that she wants the record to be made public, we can be advised of that, and we can just do that. Then it doesn't need to come back to rules. Rules is just making a decision today, either grant the appeal, in which case it's public, deny the appeal, or if the appeal is denied, but we hear, denied or granted, but I think denied is probably the easier way to go. But we hear that she is willing to have the record be made public, then that could just happen as a matter of course administratively.
Okay.
It wouldn't have to come out of this committee.
Nor are there any other, so say we grant her request today, are there any other potential impediments for us releasing the video just based on the decision of this committee?
There aren't, but if the committee decides to grant the appeal today, then it would be considered a public record. So that anyone who wanted to have see the video could make a request of the police department. So I think that you may want to, well, it depends on the committee, but if you don't want to just make it a public record today, you're going to need to qualify that. But otherwise, that's really your option.
Okay. Councilmember Pross, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, my question was answered. I thought there might be a way we could grant some, pre-approval today, contingent upon, I think authorization on whether or not our victim would like to make that public or not. But it sounds like that if that decision is made, that could just be done ministerially, right? Is that what you were saying, Nora?
Yes, if the committee gives direction today that should essentially either a conditional denial or a conditional granting, either way, but dependent upon the requester's desire for the information to be made public, then that is just something that the police department, if we're advised of that decision, then the police department can go ahead and handle, and the records staff can go ahead and handle that administratively, and at the same time address the request for the police report also. That may potentially be a separate determination, but they could be handled together.
Okay, I guess I thought I heard the end of your previous statement mention, though, that if we did grant that today, then it would be available to anybody else in the public that wish to view it after today as well. And I think that we want to wait until we hear back from the requester, because she hasn't made her decision yet on that. So that's why I don't want to do anything just yet until we've heard back from her.
Correct, but I think you could make a decision today that is conditional, so that when we hear back, she's either essentially going to be withdrawing her appeal to rules if she doesn't want it to be made public, or you could deny it today, but condition your denial of the appeal on a follow-up indication from the requester or her advocate that she's willing to have it be made public. And then in that instance, if that information is provided to the city, it doesn't have to come back to this committee, but the committee direction could be a denial, but an approval of the appeal should that indication be received.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily want to proceed if we didn't have complete understanding. And I do see Amanda's hand up, so maybe she's can help clarify here.
Amanda?
I had an additional question, which is, it is definitely disappointing that this case wasn't investigated for 1.5 years after the crime was committed. And therefore, it's much harder, I'm sure, for the police to obtain the receipts of the gun purchases. I understand that some of that burden has now been shifted onto Catherine to see if she can obtain additional evidence, which is, again, unfortunate after 1.5 years of not being investigated. But if by some chance we were able to obtain some additional evidence, could that be considered into her private release of the footage?
Chief or Lieutenant?
Yeah, I could weigh in there. Having evidence of gun purchases would help us get closer to meeting the legal threshold. It's not, as the assistant city manager said earlier, it's not a guarantee. Some of the requirements in order to prove that a crime occurred, a violation of the restraining order on that day, is going to be proof that a gun was possessed. So certainly that would get us closer to meeting that legal standard.
Okay, and then what would be the process of getting that evidence to weigh into the public records request? Like, should we send that to you, Deputy Chief Washburn, and then if it met the threshold, then we would be able to obtain the footage, or what would that process look like?
Well, if physical evidence is obtained, or you're able to acquire that, then that should be passed along to the detective sergeant from the family violence unit that was coordinating with the requester throughout the investigation, at least more recently, right? And then that information can then be evaluated. We could consult with the district attorney's office. It would become part of the police record.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So just so I, Nora, just so I understand, so we have 3 options here. One is to approve the appeal with conditions that if Catherine wants to view the video, that it's recognized there'll be public record at the point where she says yes. we could deny the appeal with a provision that if Catherine decides that she wants to view the video, that she would be authorized to do that and it still would be public record, or we can defer this for a couple weeks to allow her to make a decision. Did I summarize that correctly, or?
Yes, although I don't think that the committee needs to defer this because I think there's a direction that the committee could give that would still give her time to make her decision, but not have to come back to this committee. So it would be how you handle the appeal. All that's in front of you right now is an appeal of a denial of a Public Records Act request. And it doesn't need to come back if you give direction today. It could be handled by the department then, should she wish to move forward with her request.
Got it. Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. I think you just kind of asked the question. Well, Nora just answered that first question. There's no reason for us to defer, because if we're inclined to approve it, if she wants it approved, we might as well just state that today. One more question for Nora before I would make a motion. Is there a time limit we would have to put on this conditional approval, or could we just say an open-ended conditional approval and let the requester decide at any time in some period, in the future, how to proceed?
You don't need to have a time limit necessarily, although perhaps for everyone, it would make sense. I don't know that it would be practical for the decision to be made, for example, 2 years from now. And so if you want to put a time window on it, I think that might be easier for everyone, but it's not necessary either. And I don't know how long the records would be kept by the police department and those kinds of things. So that's the only thing that I would be concerned about, whether or not they would still have the record. But in terms of the appeal, there's not a need for a time limit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined not to put some kind of artificial time constraint on the decision. I mean, she might pursue this idea of seeing if she can find evidence, and it might take longer than she thinks, and we don't necessarily want to have to come back again. So I prefer to say, we conditionally approve and leave it at that. Obviously, all of the other things, like if it goes beyond the point of records retention and all that, I think should be understood in the process. So I'd make a motion that we conditionally approve the request pending decision by the requester as to whether she wants to allow these records to be public.
Second.
And Nora, just because this is on the public record, did he state that the way we want to have it stated?
Yes, I believe so. It's a decision by the committee to grant the appeal with a condition that is based on the desire of the requester. And I think that works, and no time limit, with the understanding that at some point police records are, like other records, are potentially destroyed and wouldn't be available.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. I don't see any other hands raised. So Tony?
Arenas?
Yeah.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Peralez?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Amanda. Okay, so going back to the beginning of the agenda, and we're going to review the agenda for February 1st. And when it comes back to a motion, can the maker of the motion also include the ad sheet? So we're going to start out on pages 4 and 5. Six and 7. Eight and 9.
I'd like to note that I already have interpreters requested for this meeting due to item 3.4.
Great, thank you. 10 and 11. And that is it. So I'm going to go to the public first. Person with the number ending 8357.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah. Anytime Tony's in charge of something happens to my Zoom, I can't get on the screen. Also from the Horseshoe, Catherine, that was the right decision. I'm with you all the way. Thank you, Councilman Cohen, and thank you, Councilwoman Arenas. It was the absolutely right decision. This is the right decision because we know that there's a cover up, and it was the right decision because it was in public interest and the people overall. Man, just slow down, man. Slow down. Okay, with respect to this agenda,
thank you.
Why wasn't this agenda? Why was it? You stack one agenda and then you leave this like vacant like that. And now this agenda is going to be added to because of what happened yesterday. We had like 3 or 4 items deferred. I prepared for these meetings. I have a public right. When you set that agenda, either you're going to be responsible for handling your business on your end, because believe me, I'm reading every single word that every single one of you guys produce. Every single word. And when you guys change the agendas like that, Ricardo's doing this on purpose. You guys are submitting, you know how irresponsible that is and disrespectful that is to the public? Yeah, well, we're just going to lay on them, an agenda item, and I'm going to amend my agenda, memo, just right before it, because I know somebody's reading them, and I don't want to give them time to prepare. That's disrespectful. I want it to stop, okay, and examine these agendas, Mr. Lee Wilcox. Do something about that, man, because it goes through your office. So I demand of you, Lee Wilcox, to set up this agenda accordingly. If not, quit. We don't need you no more, bro. Go get a job at Starbucks across the street from City Hall. Thank you.
All right, Blair.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thank you incredibly for your decision on the last item. I guess I'll talk about that at open public comment time. I'm amazed. Thank you. For this item, kind of what Paul said. Basically, there were 3 face cards yesterday of items that are incredibly important that we're slowly putting off. We're trying to talk about the forestry management issues. That's going to be deferred even this February 1st to February 8th. There's items about the Carlisle and how to define racial equity issues. And also, the billboard issue. The billboard issue in the Carlisle, I think people, have certain good ideas about, but then something's going wrong with these 2 ideas, and I hope what's going wrong can be respected and really looked into. People like Paul will be really talking about racial equity issues for the next few weeks, and with the land forest management issues, you're going to be talking to Cal OES. And that's going to be a really interesting meeting that I hope many are involved with to help kind of plan what we can expect for ourselves as a community in the next year or 2, or 3 or 4 or 5. And so that the forest management, I'm really interested in how to develop planning ideas with Cal OES for the next several years. Good luck on those issues. I don't think I have anything else to say at this time, and just very much a thank you again for the decision you made earlier allows things to move forward, and that's you offered something incredible in doing that. Thank you.
Brian?
Yes, thank you for the decision. Yeah, thank you for the decision for that. I hope, really hope and pray everything goes okay for that lady. She sounds like she's been through quite a bit. About the consent calendar, when we look at it, there's a lot of things that are and Mr. Soto has brought this up a couple of times, and so has Mr. Beekman. They get jammed into it, and it's hard to read. You know, I'm running, usually I run about 100-hour week. So I'm able to do this from where I'm working at now. But if we want to write about it, I would really like to know maybe even on the agenda, what does the city council want from us as far as like when we write a letter? What's the most effective way where we know, because I have this feeling that things just disappear. I know you can't do that because we just went through the public record. You have to keep everything that's mailed to you or emailed or talked about. I get all that, but it's how to best reach you. Like if we're going to talk about anything on the consent calendar, we can put those little tidbits in there. But I guess, you know what I'm trying to say? Squeaky wheel gets the grease. If people really want to touch, I know each council person has stuff different. If you would put forward, do you want a video? Do you want us to leave a message on the phone? Do you want us to do an email? What is it that gets the most bang for the buck? And that would really be helpful. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And Brian, like always, you know how to get in touch with me directly. All right, bringing it back to the council. Councilmember Cohen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to thank staff, Tony, Lee, for adjusting on the fly based on yesterday's changes and getting things onto next week's agenda. Also want to thank you for the deferral of the item on the billboards, since we don't have much time after tonight's commission meeting before next week's meeting to have digested and gotten input from them. So I'm glad we have a couple extra weeks to have a deliberative process after tonight's airport commission. To answer Brian, you know, from my perspective, we should, you know, send emails to our office. We read them and address specific agenda items, and that's the opportunity to address any specific agenda items on the consent calendar that are of concern. And I know this question's been asked several times about pulling items from consent. As council members, we have the opportunity to pull items from consent. There was never any other mechanism for pulling items from consent except council member request or staff request. But by letting us know in advance that there's a concern, and if we hear concerns that we think are worth addressing, that gives us time to say, oh, we want to pull this other item from consent as well, because there's some questions about that item from consent. So the appropriate process is let the council know, let council members know of concerns on and address specific agenda items, whether it be in advance or in public comment about the consent calendar. And then council members can decide if an item is worth pulling from the consent calendar to discuss further because of questions that are raised. The language on the agenda has been there, I think, a little bit in a confusing way, because it implied something that has never been the practice of the city. And so the cleanup of the language was meant to make sure it was clear about what the process is. And so I think it's important that everybody understand there's a process, and there have been times in my past in other legislative bodies where, having heard comments and questions about an agenda item, I pulled something. So I think just as important for people to understand what that process is and what Robert's rules allows for when it comes to consent calendar. So I just wanted to make that statement, and I'll move approval of the agenda with the ad sheet for February 1st.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Arenas? Arenas?
Yeah.
Thank you. Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Morales?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the agenda for February 8th. And we are going to start out on pages 4 and 5.
Hi, this is Tony. We didn't talk about it for the last meeting, but we have both of these meetings for virtual only. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
That is correct, Tony. Both of these meetings will be virtual, and next week we're likely to recommend that the final meeting in February also be virtual. We will be continuing to push back for an additional 2 weeks our return to on-site work for those that have the ability to work from home. So as such, these will continue to be virtual at least until the first meeting of March. At least that's what we would recommend.
Okay, I wanted to make sure we got that on the record.
Thank you. So we said 4 and 5, 6 and 7. Eight and 9.
And based on items 3, 4, and 5, I also have interpreters requested for this meeting.
Great, thank you. 10 and 11. 12 and 13. 14 and 15. 16. And there's no ad sheet. Going to public comments. Person with the number ending in 8357.
Okay, yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Something's like really going wrong with all of my stuff, so I'm asking for a little bit of time to get onto my thing. Let me see, I got 2 minutes, so let me see. First of all, I would like to say though, with regard to agenda items in the consent calendar, respectfully, Councilmember Cohen, that's 100% absolutely false. And what I have as proof is I'm going to send you a copy of the council meetings that I've been attending in Cupertino. And in Cupertino, they just say straight up, would the public, it's not like going through the way that you said. Not only that, this city would never, ever, 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 ever in its life afford the public anything unless it was a law. And because it was there, it said council, city council, staff, and member of the public can request this. It didn't say the direction that you said. You got to go through the council and we somehow or another misunderstood it or you somehow or another miswrote it. Because believe me, you guys follow it to the T and to your advantage. So what I'm saying is that if that's going to be your statement, that's fine. I'll accept that. But I don't want to come in here and embarrass you because that's what's going to happen. You're going to put me in a position where I have to embarrass you. And I don't want to do that, but I will. I will. Because this is a law. It's a law that's done. It's not a courtesy that you're going to extend to us because we actually get 1 minute to talk. 1 minute. I stood on that phone 5 hours yesterday to speak for 1 minute. 5 hours. I took 4 bullets. The topic was guns. I took 4 bullets from Rebecca Almendarez, and that ain't been called out. You guys didn't even mention me. You guys are like, nah, the caller. He's the caller. He's not even a citizen. He's just some voice on the phone. But believe me, I exercise power. I exercise power in this city. I'm done.
Blair?
Hi, thank you. For item 2.7, it's ask the continuation of the hybrid meeting process, or now the virtual meeting process. At that meeting time, at that item time, I hope it can be appropriate that a person from the public like myself can comment. I mean, to me, it's a public health item. And considering the importance of a pandemic and that the community share information with each other, I hope you can learn to allow a certain latitude for a person like myself who wants to speak on public health and safety items around the issues of COVID at that agenda item time. I think that should be allowed. I've been to a few city councils where they get a bit uppity and say, well, I'm not sticking to the subject matter of the hybrid meeting process. And I think the hybrid meeting process is all about community public health and defining community public health at this time and to address COVID issues. So I think it's a natural fit that we are allowed to be able to talk about health concerns, which is what I want to be able to do.
Hey, Blair, bring it home. Bring it home, Blair.
You're saying it right now, Chappie. I'm saying something incredibly meaningful, deep, and important, and you're saying I'm going off topic, right? No, I'm not. I'm saying officially this needs to be allowed to be talked about. And to quickly conclude, to talk, I agree with Paul. I think Councilperson Cohen's words are a bit off. I don't think he quite offered the right history about this subject matter, about the consent calendar language. Brian and him did offer some good ideas, but there are several others that have to be considered for the future of this consent calendar item. It is not a finished item yet. So good luck how we can work on this issue. Thank you.
All right, bring it back to the committee. Can I get a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Tony?
Arenas. Arenas. Cohen.
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Peralez.
Yes.
Jones.
Aye. All right, motion passes on to the public record. And I see Blair, you have your hand up. Blair, can you do me a favor when you speak to the public record? Can you reference the letter that you're referring to? Just to help me out. Go ahead.
Sure. I want to speak to the letters about the park issues. And I just wanted to thank the people who are addressing the park issues. And I wish I could speak a little more Espanol to complement their work. They're trying to work on issues. And I just wanted to offer that as they're trying to work towards park improvements, that they also acknowledge the technology and surveillance and data collection that will be in the parks, that are being placed in parks, and that they can ask what can be good open public policy practices for the park improvements they're asking for. With that said, man, I hope my request can really be respected about how community safety and public health can be a bit broader issue to talk about with when approving the continuation of the COVID meeting process. Thank you.
All right. Paul?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. First of all, I'm referencing Barb Gregory submitted it. And America, yo tengo respeto y respeto de comunidad. Yo tengo respeto para ti, América, por tu letra, tú de ciudad de San José. Yo tengo mucho respeto para tu letra. And this is my neighborhood, man. I'm sick and tired of this, man. That dude thinks he's going to keep that mural. Guess what I found in my barrio? You'll never guess. You will never guess in 100 years what I found in my barrio. I found the building where the first issue of Lowrider was printed. Yes! So we're going to be having discussions about my barrio, Washington, Guadalupe. First issue of Lowrider, bingo. So don't get too taking out that mural because these parks are going to be protected, and with respect to the technology, I want your resources. This is your district, Peralez. Where are you? Or are you sucking up to my name isn't Dillabo. My name is not Oriaga. My name is not Nice. So we ain't got no action. I want you to put it on the record, bro. This is your head. This is your barrio, bro. Defend the barrio. Or maybe you were taught that. Maybe they were teaching you how to wear skinny jeans. I'm done.
Paul? Are you done? All right. Brian?
Yes. Another question. First of all, thank you for that information, for the information about how to word those things. I think that's really true. And I will venture to do that. The second thing, the public record we send in letters, and I know one of the other representatives answered the question. It goes into like a packet that goes along with everything else that has to do. Does that, if we have a public record, do those things follow? Like if we mention an agenda item in the public record, or is it better to just use the public record as a general framework to write things that are not directly involved in with the agenda of that day? So I guess being the most specific is probably the best. So if anybody just has a little suggestion, I hope that was clear. Thank you.
Tony, do you have any words of advice on?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask Brian to email me his contact and I can call him, but the public record items, if they do not reference a council item, those are the letters that go into the public record. They're general comments to the city. If they're about a specific department, we generally take those letters and send them to the department for handling. So the public record at the Rules Committee is more broad topics of the city. If there's a specific agenda item, then we take that letter and attach it to the specific agenda item, and it does not go in this rules public record packet.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we actually have a policy online that says how the public record packet goes. So if Brian wants to email city.clerk, I can send him a link to that policy.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Jill, and please reference the letter that you're speaking to.
I'm specifically referencing the letter, handwritten letter from the high schooler. It's dated November 5th of 2021. I'm just wondering, that seems a little old. Maybe they were collected and submitted or whatever, but my main concern is I just really want to encourage anyone. So it says to San Jose City Council, but when you have high schoolers, so I have taught before, I'm a homeschooling mom, these moments are critical in a student's life. And so I'm just so hopeful that someone from the San Jose City Council has taken the time to absolutely just do it. Just take the time to reach out to this high schooler and tell them what a difference it made for them to write that letter. I mean, we wish we could do that with everybody, but it's really important that when we are trying to teach civic engagement, if a child under the age of 18 is becoming civically engaged, and this is the point of contact that's so important. So I just would encourage one of you at least, hopefully more, to reach out and thank Angela and let her know that it mattered. It mattered to you that she wrote it, that somebody is addressing it or wants to address it, so that we can get these high schoolers engaged in their neighborhood like they're doing and show them that it can make a difference. It's really critical to do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bring it back to the committee. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve. Oh, note and file.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Reyes,
Yes.
Cohen, Davis,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, on to the consent calendar, and I'm gonna go to the public first. And Jill, you have your hand up.
I'm so sorry. I did the thing where I didn't lower it, so pardon me.
We have a consent calendar on here?
No.
No?
Consent calendar, so.
All right. So I guess if we don't have a consent calendar, we won't be taking public comments on something we don't have. So next is communicating district changes to residents. Memo from the mayor, Jimenez, Cohen, Foley, and Mahan. And I am going to go to the public first on this item. And Blair, go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Sorry, my passion got a little strong previously. I hope Vice Mayor Jones, that's what you're referring to. I'm sorry for my passion. at least you understand my feelings, how I would like to talk about the subject in the future. Obviously, I made that very clear. So thanks for that. Thanks for understanding that. I assume that's what you were asking about, Councilperson Jones. So with this item, these are about issues of communication. And this was what took place last night, that I was just amazed, I think, overall with the idea and direction of working on the policy issues of gun insurance and a small fee to help pay for schooling, education, and counseling services for our community, the future of our community. I think that's an awesome concept that we don't fully know how to say to each other yet. And I hope we learn how to. I don't think we quite understand what a decent thing we did last night. And it's something we need to learn how to practice sharing that with the community. Good luck how you can do that with this item as well. We are possibly at a time as city government to learn how to better communicate to our community and to share good ideas or share practices. And good luck how we can do that. And thank you.
All right, thank you. That's it for public speakers on this item. Bringing it back to I'm sorry, Paul raised his hand. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you for that, Vice Mayor Jones. Paul Sutton from the Horseshoe. If that redlining map of 1939 is not inserted in this conversation, the legitimacy of the transference of District 6 to District of the Barrio Horseshoe, there ain't nobody that comes in here and says Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. And that was the primary, that was D11. I want this amended, this memo, and I want this amended, Perales, and I demand that you put on there that you failed, one of the most active citizens from that barrio, that you failed to acknowledge that you were going to transfer D11 on the red line map, which means we were the lowest resources. We were deprived of it. Why? Because Willow Glen annexed into the city of San Jose 8 months before that redlining map was developed. And they did that on purpose. And so they forced me to live in that barrio with everything that happened there. And then you had the audacity to keep quiet and then give that barrio to Willow Glen. That was in that non-disclosure deal. Dude, you're going to get sued, dude. You are going to get sued, and so is the city. Because you try to legitimize that map, you're done, dude. You're finished. The courts are going to know exactly, and then you're going to answer them, dude. You better get a lawyer, because I don't need one. I'm going to come with the culture. I already know what time it is with that barrio. Can't nobody in the city teach me about redline. So come on, deny it. Don't put it on there, Charles. I dare you not to put it on here. After you were born here, because this is a public record, old boy. I'll see you in court and Davis.
Okay, that's it for public comments. Gonna bring it back to the committee, and Councilmember Cohen, since you're one of the signatures on the memo, do you want to speak to it or make a motion, or what is your desire?
Yeah, I mean, I think the memo is pretty straightforward. Obviously, there are a lot of residents in the city who are now in a different district, and rather than have each council office try to communicate with them directly, it makes sense for the city to do a common message that goes out. Plus, as it points out here, people who are running for office can't do mail within a period of time before the election in June. So this allows the city to handle it centrally. So I'll move the adoption of the memo to communicate the changes to the residents affected.
Great, thank you. And actually, I forgot to go to Lee to comment on the early consideration response form. So Lee, do you have any comments or?
No comments other than it's a green light. Clerk's office, city manager's office, and public works have been working together to do this, given kind of the narrow time frame of communicating to residents before the June election. So it is a green light, and you'll see budget allocation in the mid-year budget process for this.
Great, thank you. So can I get a second?
Second.
Great. It's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, on to open forum. Go ahead, Blair.
Hi, thanks. Blair Beekman here. Honesty is another point of good communication, to simply note. It was Martin Luther King's birthday a few weeks ago. A good reminder I learned at that time was I think we can work towards voting rights issues that actually can unify ourselves as a nation in the coming decade. If we want to be open and honest with our new electronic voting ideas, and definitely follow the ideas of Stacey Abrams over the past 15, 20 years, which she's been working on, I think something amazing can develop as a country. We can unify ourselves. We don't have to be so defensive and reactionary. And I'm interested how we can learn how to, this is a time we can ask ourselves how to begin to better do that. Good luck on those efforts. Good luck to the questions of honesty, as I said, in communicating. What's mistakes at first and uncomfortable and misunderstandings, we sit in a process and we learn how to draw out its honesty. You guys did that awesomely with the woman's item today, her appeal. You know, we could have just left this that the public isn't allowed to view body cameras, but law questions can be much deeper than that. And you tried to ask those questions and you found a way. I can't thank you enough. It is just such a good lesson for myself. What are good practices we can do as a community to work towards our better ends. It was awesome. Thank you. And with that said, I need to apologize a bit for my words yesterday at the end of open forum. I meant to say that, you know, there's a vibrancy to the surveillance and technology ordinance ideas that the whole community can get involved with. And I hope that you can apply that same thing to the gun ideas and even to these redistricting ideas.
Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. This might be a little outside the wheelhouse. First of all, the gun ordinance was a very, very well thought out. Like, I'm sure you don't read the comment sections for you guys, because I don't think I'd run away of some of the news articles. It's like, you know, if there's any way to, I don't know, prayer's not the right, well, it can be. What's going on in the Ukraine and the forces we're activating, this is really scary, and it can spiral out of control very fast. There are 4, Ukraine isn't, they gave up their nuclear option when the Soviet Union disintegrated, basically. And they were counting on NATO to protect them from a potential Russian aggression. That's, at least that's the line that's being said. But the 4 other nation states now that are there, they do have nuclear weapons, and they're very clear about they do not have a problem with first strike. And actually, under the other administration, we said that, and so did the Soviets. I mean, so did the Russians. That's scary, because I remember, you know, planning on, you know, duck and cover like Tony the Turtle. Well, there's no duck and cover in a nuclear war. Everybody suffers horribly. And I just think if there's some possibility of the peace you came out to last night to try to bring some, these weapons are far more powerful than our social ability to handle them now. And they're becoming more and more powerful, and more people are getting them. And the atom could free us, but it could also be the end of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. First of all, I'd like to extend, Catherine, what you did was courageous, and it was the right thing to do, because your advocacy here is going to allow women to now be even more so protected, because now that this information is going to become public, it's going to inform the public. I'm sorry to say it like this, because I don't mean this personally to you, but it is more than just about you. It is about public safety. And when public safety is relegated to a behind closed doors kind of thing, it is the public that suffers. If you had allowed that to happen, or the police department wants it to happen, because what we know to do, this is my plug, please interrupt me.
Yeah, you know,
I'm
open
talking to
forum.
the senora.
Hey,
I'm
Paul,
talking
you
to the
know, open
senora.
forum
Okay,
is,
no, I'll accept your interruption. I'll accept it. I'll accept it. So I'm getting back to the D3, the lines. I have the recordings of the public comments, and you, Perales and Davis, you brought up every single other district except District 3 and 6. Those are the only districts that you never brought up. Okay, now you want to clean it up with this document. It's not going to happen, dude. You and Davis are going to be defendants. That court case.
Paul, sorry for interrupting.
Interrupt me again. Interrupt me again. You know what?
That
You know
also
what,
is on
Kathy? You
the
know what?
agenda. Open forum is for items not on the agenda. You know that. All right, person with the number ending in 4963.
Yeah, hi all. This is Martha O'Connell, and I just found out something in the last couple of hours that is very, very stressful. Members of boards and commissions are now required to divulge their vaccine status, and apparently, it can go through anybody in the department under which the commission is, and I have a real problem with that. I think that when we're talking about medical information, that this information should be collected by someone like the ADA compliance officer and not a clerk or an employee of a particular department. There's privacy concerns here, and I think you guys need to look at this very carefully and give people the opportunity to divulge this information in confidence to an appropriate office such as the ADA compliance officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric?
Hi, I'm just I'd just like to comment on the gun ordinance passed yesterday, and I think I'm for the most part against it, though I think I understand certain components of it, like the insurance, like I think Perales was saying, like we were trying to incentivize good behavior, and I understand that. I understand it's from a good place, but I just got to say my opinion is that it's just too heavy-handed of a measure. It's applying to all gun owners, whether they're responsible or whether they have showed negligent behavior, just from all sides of the spectrum. And it's an additional cost that's penalizing everyone, right? So I just feel that, like, because I mean the Second Amendment is a right; it's not a privilege. We shouldn't have to pay, especially during this economy. Just every little bit is adding up. Obviously, like the $25 a year, I don't think most people have a problem with that. But just the whole idea of need to have an insurance premium. So I was just wondering, like, is there a way to I don't know if I can propose this, but if there's accompanying this, like this ordinance, if there can be like some kind of credit or benefit given to gun owners that do comply and get the insurance, and they can proof of that to the city and to the state, if there can be some kind of benefit in order to outweigh the additional cost of having to pay these higher premiums and these buy these additional policies. Because as it is right now, it's just a straight fee. It's a straight harm for everyone who's trying to exercise their right. And if you can do it so that you can offset a little of that price, then maybe people who are responsible gun owners are no worse off than before, and only the irresponsible gun owners who are negligent and they don't keep their guns the most safe will be penalized more because they're paying higher premiums. So just something to consider. And yeah, thank you.
All right, Jill?
Thank you. Yes, with the gun issue, I wanted to just say for the record that the liability issue, having liability insurance, actually makes a lot of sense to me. I talked to my daughter about this, and she came up, she says, why don't they have gun safety scores to reduce your premiums, like when I took that teen driver course. So I made her take the teen driver's course so I could get a AAA discount on my policy. I would think that would be a similar issue. But so that's great. But the $25 fee, it's not the $25 that's the problem. For me, it's that we have another nonprofit that is somehow connected to our local government, and all of these nonprofits, they're driving me nuts. And I personally feel like Next Door Solutions may be wonderful. I'm so grateful they're there. But once we continue to attach our local government's line item budget association with connecting our policies with nonprofits, I don't really even know what our government is anymore. There's like 40 nonprofits at every single task force situation going on, and I really sometimes feel like nonprofits are really who the government is. Like, what's happening? What happened to government? It's just all these nonprofits. I think that's a horrible thing. I'm so glad that Councilmember Foley, Councilmember Davis, and Councilmember Mahan voted against that. I think that was very wise. Okay, my last thing quickly, I think renters should receive in the mail once a year with either a lease agreement or their rental documents, their landlord's parcel number with the property taxes that their landlord shows. People that own property receive something in the mail that says, Santa Clara, where does your taxes go? I've already said this at Santa Clara, but I'm just kind of planting the seed here with you. Renters should see the tax bill as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was our last public speaker. So this meeting is adjourned. Take care, everyone.